Let's start off first with our friend Michael Yon. Michael, welcome to the broadcast and our 74 Christian radio stations along with Worldview Tube. Hope you're having a great day, Michael. Thanks for being with us.
And thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm back in Texas. As you know, I've spent about the last year downrange in Panama and South America looking at so many of these issues. And now I'm back in Texas. And speak of the devil, Governor Abbott, somebody I've warned about so many times, yesterday we took a helicopter over Colony Ridge, right? And an airplane. Luckily, our good friend Dave Cannon, good Christian man, by the way, we actually landed his helicopter in a church parking lot and talked with people there a little bit and yesterday, but we were actually going to look at Colony Ridge. And so Colony Ridge is that big colony north of Houston. And so we went in the morning in the helicopter, and a little bit too cloudy or a little bit too foggy. So we came back, let it burn off, and came back with an airplane. The good thing that's going on is since Trump has been in office, the construction at Colony Ridge has nearly stopped. There's still a little bit going on. Dave Cannon flies over every couple of weeks. He often sends me photos. So that's good news.
And by the way, this, for those who don't remember, this is gigantic area, which obviously is so big, you have to have a helicopter, a plane to fly over it, where some guy down there is clearing the land and has been selling plots of land for illegal invaders to build homes, I think at high level interest rates, and then they don't make their payments, they get booted, and he resells it for a down payment and monthly payments, and maybe sells the same house 3 or 4 times. So this is a huge compound, which I don't know who it was down there in Texas, but someone down there claimed that when we interviewed you about it and Todd Bensman about it, and you two I know flew over it together at one time too, someone came out down there and said, this is not filled with a bunch of illegal invaders. That's a fake news. But you and I know it is.
It's real. And
it's
we
real.
Were back yesterday. And so it's 200,000 people. That's how real it is. And the developer, Trey Harris, has been a major donor to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
Which is why this has been able to go on for years and years and years. And I think it even involved early on serious sanitation issues with how they were doing their sewage.
Oh, yeah, and it's a wetland area. And so yesterday we were back there again. Now, keep in mind, Texas is effectively a sanctuary state. Whether or not that they like to advertise themselves as such is irrelevant to the facts. The facts are Texas is a sanctuary state. In fact, the only state in the union at this point that is not a sanctuary state, I would say, is Florida. Governor DeSantis and Florida law enforcement are behind 287G, which is a provision that allows law enforcement at all levels to, if you like, say, do a traffic stop or in any reason have something to do with arresting somebody or somebody's involved with an encounter with law enforcement, you can check ICE records to see if they're actually legally in the United States. It only takes a couple of minutes. Now, the only state that's behind this at this point is Florida. Texas is actively against it, openly against it. For instance, the Department of Public Safety, which is sort of like Texas FBI, sort of like FDLE in Florida, Florida Department of Law Enforcement. But the Texas DPS is openly against adhering to 287G. In other words, and they're crystal clear. In fact, in a Texas House testimony recently, about a month ago, there's a video. I'll put it on my Substack today, but I haven't put it up yet, but I will. I was just finishing watching it. But in this video, the Texas Department of Public Safety is actually saying that they don't want to adhere to 287G. They don't want to be involved in the mass deportations. They're crystal clear about it. And Abbott, by the way, the chair of this meeting opened the meeting. It was testimony at the Texas House. Opened it, welcoming the stakeholders. Stakeholders is dog whistle for members of the World Economic Forum. They're open about it. Notice the World Economic Forum people are constantly talking about stakeholders. And keep in mind, the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, is openly a member of the World Economic Forum. I've been saying this for years. He's on their website. He'll never say a bad word about the World Economic Forum. And the World Economic Forum is one of the entities that's all about invading the United States. And Abbott has helped with this every step of the way. Often people say, no, Abbott was busing people to New York or whatever and showing the New Yorkers, what it's like. That's not what he was doing. That was fooling the most low-level people into thinking that that's what he was doing, was showing New York what it's like. No, he was clearing the banks of the Rio Grande so more could come in, which he did. Then he would go down to the Texas border. Now, keep in mind, I've been across the entire U.S. border, the entire U.S. southern border, which took months, from SpaceX on the Gulf side to San Diego on the Pacific side. I've been across the whole thing. It took months. A lot of that on the Mexican side. I'm very familiar with the border. When Abbott I've spent many months just on the Texas part of the border and all up and down this border a lot. And Abbott, when he would come do his little things on the border, saying that they're unfurling, concertina wire and whatever, closing the border, it was all just acting, because, just a couple miles down the way, there would be people crossing the border even while he's saying they're closing the border. It was that open. There's Abbott right there. The guy should be in prison. He's a traitor. And cowards are natural traitors, by the way. You got to be careful with cowards. He's a coward. He's a World Economic boy. He's actively destroying the great state of Texas, and MAGA needs to stand up, because there's no way Trump's going to hit his numbers. No way. Not when states like Texas are actively tripping it up. They're not just passive and worthless. They're actually active saboteurs on the repatriation. Repatriation is what it is, sending the invaders back to wherever they came from, or just to some other country. We don't owe everybody a first-class ticket home. Our only mission is to get them out of the United States, get rid of them back to the United States. We can send ships up the Mississippi. We can send ships to Miami and Tampa and Jacksonville and New York, load up the ships and sail them back. For instance, it's a quick sail down to Venezuela. We can send ships full of people back to Venezuela, and if Venezuela doesn't want to open the beaches, then we can open those beaches for them.
There you go. So let me ask you this real quick. Are you saying, Michael, that the police division in Texas, they are under the control of Governor Abbott, correct?
Right.
And you're saying that they will not.
Give me the name.
And you're saying that they will not deport the illegal invaders.
Nope. They're not taking part in anything big. And they'll do little twosies and threesies here and there, but they're not. Okay, here's the name of the guy. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor. He's the Deputy Director of Law Enforcement Operations for the DPS, the Department of Public Safety here in Texas. He said on this, I'll give you the name of the, you can find this video. It's on the Texas House of Representatives website. So it's Texas House of Representatives, Homeland Security, Public Safety, and Veterans Affairs testimony just a few weeks ago. And you can see this guy, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor, Deputy Director of Law Enforcement. Go to about the 41-minute mark, or just watch the whole thing is better. I mean, the guy chairing the hearings is testimony is, again, he's welcoming stakeholders. That's World Economic Forum talk right there. And you get that down into about the 41-minute mark or so, 42 minutes maybe. That's when you get Lieutenant Colonel Jason Taylor, Deputy Director of Law Enforcement Operations at DPS, saying they don't want to do it, and they're not going to do it unless they're ordered to do it. Of course, Abbott's not going to order DPS to do this.
Now, let me interrupt you real quick. I am tonight, Michael, and I want you to know about this. I can talk to you offline or signal with you, but I want you to be one of the first to know about it when we release it tonight. I'm going to be interviewing tonight a guy that we hired that has gone into 425 mosques in America, Dave Govitz. You may have known his son, Chris Govitz, whose TV and radio show he produced. He went undercover, grew the Sharia beard, went undercover in Muslim Brotherhood, came out with 12,000 documents. We hired or paid Dave, former federal agent, former military guy like yourself, to go down to Texas. We have audio, we have recordings, He went there to Epic, Yasser Qadi's place. He went to some of the other ones. We will be releasing tonight what kind of books they're promoting, what ideologies they're promoting, where they stand on child bride marriages. We'll be releasing all of that tonight. And I've been telling this audience for some time that, like you, that Greg Abbott was useless, absolutely useless. And if they can take down Texas, they can then target, which I think is their next state. I think Andy Cyrus will be on here with me in a minute. Will tell you, we think the next state they're targeting is Tennessee. But they've compromised Texas at the highest levels of government. I don't know if it's money or what it is, but the highest levels of the Texas government are compromised. They even made it Pakistani Day. They have some of these Islamic people, some of these cultural jihadists in their own legislature there in Texas. You know that, right?
I don't know the details about the Texas side, but the way that these recruitments are done is normally with the four main cheeses: mice, money, ideology, coercion, and ego. So that's the four main cheeses that capture practically anybody that's easily capturable. And I don't know what cheeses they used on Abbott, or if he's just a natural traitor or whatever, but he's World Economic Forum, and many of the people around him are as well. The Texas Department of Public Safety should be standing up. And I know their boss is Abbott, but at some point you need to stand up for your state and your people and not just constantly take orders. I mean, at some point, I've watched DPS. I've published this many times when I was on the border. DPS was physically helping with the invasion, and they would push people like us back. They didn't want us even making video of them loading up the buses. DPS.
Well, now this explains, and I want to touch on this when we come back, and then I got to go to Annie and Aaron. But this helps us understand why there are all these DHS tents all over Texas. And of course, the UN, as you are exposing, with their UN gift cards, debit cards, the Department of Homeland Security under Biden were shoving them into Texas, and then Abbott was setting up camps all over his own state for them. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. We're going to go to Annie here real quick on the controversy related to the president meeting with the leader of Syria. We'll also get an update from Aaron. Let's go back real quick. Michael Yon, and his, if you want to follow him on X, it's Michael_Yon. On the, that's off the top of my memory, guys. I hope I'm right. Is that right, Michael?
What's that? I'm sorry, sir.
Your X account, Michael_Yon?
Yes, sir. But I'm actually mostly on Substack, although I do go on X. But yeah, in fact, I just put up some of the material about the flight that I took a couple flights yesterday over the Colony Ridge. Came with a helicopter in the morning. It was a little too foggy, so I let it burn off and came back with an airplane. The colony's so big, you can't really get it with a helicopter. You need to come back, and you can't fly too high over there, unfortunately, because there's an international airport not far away. So you got these ceiling problems to deal with there. But it's a huge colony. It's 200,000 people. And again, that's just one. This is actually colonialization. That's why they call it Colony Ridge. And I mean, it's straight up. They don't hide it.
Yeah. And this would explain why Abbott was allowing all of these tents that you, Michael Yon, Anthony Rubin with Muckraker, were doing all these drones showing these humongous tents in Texas. And we were like, why are they putting up what looked like could be concentration camps for those of us who maybe don't want to go along with COVID or next pandemic, and a lot of them were empty. And we were being told, oh, they're for refugees. And we're like, well, where are the refugees? Isn't like there's anybody in these things. And so I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. But knowing that Abbott is so compromised explains why he was allowing those tents, which even some of the local people didn't know they were there. When you guys would go looking for them, the locals didn't know what you're talking about because they were maybe 5 miles outside of town off the beaten path. They didn't even know these huge complexes were there. Some of them did, but some of the folks Anthony Rubin and others ran into didn't even know what he was talking about. Yet these complexes are huge, a few miles outside of town, I guess surrounded by trees or whatever.
Speaking of Anthony Rubin, Tip, you're going to want to have him on soon. Some things have been happening over in Paris, and I'm going to let him tell you about it, but it's very important, and you're going to want to have him on. Anthony Rubin is unbelievable. I took him down to the Darien Gap before, and then we went across most of the border together, actually, from Texas over to California. And then we did a lot of other things together. And then Anthony went back he flew down to Quito, Ecuador, and then he actually went all the way through the Darien Gap with Chinese and others. Then he got kidnapped in Mexico.
That's right.
And I was actually tracking his tracker when he got kidnapped. And so I realized he was kidnapped before he was able to. Well, anyway, he was let loose later. But in any case, that was down near SpaceX, but on the Mexican side, where they had killed Americans about a year before that. But something, again, just happened to Anthony yesterday in Paris, and let him tell you about that. But Anthony Rubin knows more about the situation than almost anybody on the planet at this point. He was just down in Africa looking at it, just like Masako Ganaha and I. We've been to 30 countries in the last 4 years looking at these flows. We've been all across the United States looking at the flows, and we've been to Canada and Morocco and all over the place looking at these the architecture of the invasions. And you can see what's happening in Texas. Actually, Matt Bracken, by the way, he's in Ireland right now. I helped him get set up over there. Ireland is being completely invaded. That's just one of the countries. Sweden, of course, Luxembourg, one country after another. And Texas is obviously on the menu. The governor is completely captured. He is behaving in the interest of our enemies, clearly. And it's beyond just lazy and stupidity. This is clear, active measures to destroy the United States. Governor Abbott is clearly acting as an enemy.
At Michael _ Yon, at Michael _ Yon, and Yon is YON. And then what is your Substack, Michael?
Substack, again, my name, Michael Yon, Yankee Oscar November, YON.
So substack.michaelyon.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. Michael, as always, great reporting. Now, you're back in the country for the first time in a long time. You going to be coming anywhere near Tennessee?
Possibly. In fact, I've been overseas for the last year tracking these flows and, of course, warning about the Panama Canal issue, because this is all related. These things with the invasions and the drugs and all these other things, they're all related to Panama, Suez, Bab el-Mandeb, Strait of Hormuz, Malacca. I'm watching all these things and going to country after country and looking at this is a comprehensive war. This is not just people leaking over the border.
All right, let's see if we can talk off air, pay you an honorarium, your flight, hotel, and get you up here for 24 hours.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll get in touch with you as soon as we get off the air. Be safe, my friend.
Thank you.
Michael Yon checking in at Michael _ Yon for X, or Michael Yon, substack.michaelyon.com. Or is it michaelyon.substack.com? Which one is it, Logan? michaelyon.substack.com. All right, he also has a website, I think, which is also just michaelyon.com.